You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Then you will be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you will be hated by all nations because of me.
What you are about to hear is real. The prophets wrote of a time when the signs of the end would be seen. This is where Bible prophecy and current events collide. This is Unsealed.
Hey everybody, welcome to Unsealed, the official podcast of Wings of the Eagle. Christopher Manti is me, your host for this time together. By the way, just got word this morning that we've gone over 10,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel at Wings of the Eagle, which is phenomenal, considering the content that's on it. And anyway, it's nothing compared to the big boys out there in YouTube land, but significant. And I'm just so thankful to every single one of y'all who are subscribers. And if you are not, now it's time for the obligatory, please subscribe to the channel. Like this video, subscribe, get alerts so you know when the new ones are coming on, all that stuff. And you'll never miss an Unsealed episode because they're all on there, as well as everything else we produce and share from End Time Church and other stuff. So please do that if you haven't. I thank all of you who have. Love you so very much. And the past couple of weeks obviously have been a little different content here on Unsealed, as we've been concentrating in a particular area about strangeness and UAPs and stuff since like July. But then a flare up in Israel has happened, and last week we weren't able to come on at all. But there's one thing that does continue to crop up, and I wanted to address it. And you can disagree if you want. That's fine. We're going to go over some Bible here, as well as current events, and I want your feedback and input. So any questions, comments, or what's you've got, just put it in the chat, whether it be YouTube or Facebook or on the End Time Church app or whatever. By the way, I'm Anti4 on X, formerly Twitter. It's a really good resource, that tool for finding stuff out and cutting through the bull of mass media, which is nice. It's pretty good. Anyways, subscribe on there to me, or follow me there for thoughts and opinions and write-ups and links and stuff. Okay, we're going to talk about Psalm 83 today. And I put Psalm 83 war ? In the title because I think it's an open question. I mean, it should be a question. Because many, it's just a very popular view in the church, in the prophecy community, that Psalm 83 is a war that is supposed to happen before the final 7 years. That's the basic supposition of it. And let's just read it together and see, first of all, if that's true. Minor point, right? Is it true? And then what do we do with it? Because obviously with this latest war with Israel and their enemies in Hamas, basically the Palestinian jihadists, regardless of what they call themselves, are clearly at war with the Jews. And then because supporters and Palestinian folks all over the world are now attacking Jewish people. So it's pretty wild and not fun. And so it behooves us to get it right. Anyway, I just did want to let you know before we begin here that we are brought to you by your giving. And if this blesses you, please bless Wings of the Eagle Ministry. There's it's only going to keep coming to you as a podcast or anything else if you support us. That's just the truth. So please give what you can today. Today. Thanks. And next week, I think, again, Lord willing, I think we're going to get back to the UAP stuff and Arrow because there's some major news coming out of the government as far as that goes. So I think we'll possibly head back to that. But anyway, let's look at this together, okay? And if you're on audio version podcast, I'm sorry you're not going to get to see this, but we will read it. But for those of you watching, you've got a display on your screen of the text of Psalm 83. And then I do see you guys. Hello. Please feel free to interact. I'm going to get to the feedback in a second here, okay? All right. On the left, I've got parallel Bible versions there. On the left, you see the NASB, which is probably the best literal translation in the English language. And the right is the NLT, which is probably the best paraphrasing English translation that we have. So got the two sides of those methods to see what the deal is. Okay, so let's just read the left-hand side because it's easier. Psalm 83, a song or a psalm of Asaph. God, do not remain quiet. Do not be silent, God. Do not be still. Obviously, this is Asaph, not David. Asaph is imploring God to make some noise and rouse from your habitation. That's a phrase that comes up a lot in the Psalms and the prophets. For behold, your enemies make an uproar, and those who hate you, hate God, have exalted themselves. Or as the NLT says, don't you see your arrogant enemies are rising up? To exalt, to rise up, right? They make shrewd plans against your people, or crafty schemes, and conspire together against your treasured ones, or precious ones, or hidden ones. And conspire together could be termed consult together. So they're talking with each other about how much they hate Israel. They have said, come, let us wipe them out as a nation, so that the name of Israel will no longer be remembered. For they have conspired together with one mind. They make a covenant against you. Or as NLT says, yes, this was their unanimous decision. Together, they have one mind unanimously. They signed a treaty as allies against you. Okay, hang on. That should tell us something. So they're getting together, they're in agreement. They're actually, all of these, whoever they are getting together and are signing a covenant, a treaty, formalizing their opposition or their plans for the Jews or for Israel. Okay, who are these who are conspiring together? Start in verse 6. The tents of Edom, or Edomites, and the Ishmaelites, Moab, or Moabites, and Hagrites, Gebal, Ammon, and Amalek, Philistia, and the inhabitants of Tyre. Assyria has also joined them. They have become a help to the children of Lot, Selah. Who are the children of Lot? Moab and Ammon. And he gives a Selah there, so maybe pause on this. All right. Edomites, Edom, we know where that is. Southwest Jordan and northwest Saudi Arabia. Ishmaelites, the children of Ishmael. We know they're in Arabia. Arab people, basically. Moab is in Jordan. Hagrites, now, I always understood this to mean from Hagar, but that isn't actually correct. Gebal, Ammon, and Amalek. Amalek is not even a place. Amalek is a person. All these are people, really. But this is where they live. Ammon is central Jordan, where the capital is still to this day. Philistia is Gaza. Essentially. Inhabitants of Tyre. Tyre is Lebanon. Okay, so now you say, okay, well, now this, if we're talking about, now Jordan isn't involved in hostilities right now, for sure. Neither is Saudi Arabia. But Philistia and Tyre, you could say, certainly are. All right. Assyria has also joined them. Assyria is not a thing right now, right? So we have to look back in history to see where it is, and it's always been in the same place, which is northern Iraq, northern Syria, a bit, southern Turkey, and even a bit of northern Iran. It's basically where the Kurds live today. It is where the Kurds live. That's Assyria. Have any of them joined in? Like, just take this for what it is. Okay, the point is, I haven't seen any battles yet. These are just agreements. Deal with them. He's asking God, deal with them as with Midian, as with Sisera and Jabin at the river Kishon, who were destroyed at Endor, and their decaying corpses or became like dung for the ground, fertilized the soil. Make their nobles like Oreb and Zeb, and all their leaders like Zebah and Zalmunna, who said, let's possess for ourselves the pastures of God, or let's seize the land of Israel, basically. So Asaph is asking God to kill them, in ways like he did with Midian, like he did in the book of Judges. So yeah, I mean, that's what he's asking God to do to them, but there's been no action. And again, it said, for they said, let us seize for our own use the pasture lands of God. Is he talking about this current confederacy, or is he talking about Zebah and Zalmunna? This is like the Gideon story. Anyway, my God, the point is, he's asking God to destroy them. My God, make them like the whirling dust, the chaff before the wind, the fire that burns in the forest, and like a flame that sets the mountains on fire. So pursue them with your heavy gale, or your fierce storm, and terrify them with your storm. Fill their faces with dishonor, so that they will seek your name, Lord. May they be ashamed, dismayed forever, and may they be humiliated and perish, so that they will know that you alone, whose name is Yehovah, whose name is the Lord, are the most high over all the earth. Okay, that's Psalm 83. I didn't see anything in there about fighting. I didn't see anything in there about an attack. I see the list of some nations, several nations, that hate Israel and want her to be wiped out. I see them agreeing that they want to do this, or that they are agreed in their motivation, in their desires, and then it's asking God to destroy them. It doesn't describe God destroying them. It doesn't describe them attacking Israel. It doesn't describe any battles. So how can we call that a war? I don't see that there's a war in there at all. Now, I understand. Do you? Again, I'm not trying to do this to come against some teacher or ministry or something. Totally not. I'm good friends and partners with people who believe this, that Psalm 83 is a real battle, is a war that's going to happen very soon, if not all like it's happening now, or it's going to happen any second, and it's a real thing. I just don't see it's a real thing. I'm certainly not the only one who thinks that, and it doesn't matter who thinks what. It's what the Bible says, right? What God says is what matters. I do want to just make one reference to someone else's work on this, who I happen to agree with, and the book called Mideast Beast by Joel Richardson. I highly recommend you get this if you don't have it yet. He has a chapter on Psalm 83 that I completely agree with. And there's a couple maps to make it easy. Those are the nations that we just read about. If you want to make them into modern nations, I don't know if it shows up well on the focus there. Okay. You'll see one major missing nation there, though, is Iran, Persia. Interesting. because for sure, today, if this current situation is what Psalm 83 is describing, the Iranians are not mentioned, where in reality, they're leading the charge, really. I mean, they're, as far as their propaganda, as far as they're whipping up their population, as far as arming groups that are attacking Israel, we know they arm Hamas. We know they are directly responsible for arming Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen, for the Hezbollah in Lebanon, for Syrian and Iraqi militias. These are all Iranian encouragements and, you know, weapons and monies and all that stuff. So how they're not in here? Okay, you got to consider that. And then what Joel does is, this is the map on the next page of Ezekiel 38 and 39, which has most the concentration of the nations mentioned in Turkey, but there's Persia now. That's Iran is included, where they were not in Psalm 83. And it also doesn't include most of the region other than Libya and Sudan. What the Bible calls Ethiopia is Sudan. Okay, so that's Ezekiel 38 and 39. This is Psalm 83. And then there's a chart there comparing the nations right there. And what Ezekiel 38 does leave room for is, it doesn't list all those nations, but it does say, and many nations with you, including Iran, including Turkey, right? So that could cover the rest of them. That's fine. Now, Ezekiel 38 really does talk about a battle. It talks about an invasion. It talks about pretty exact what happens. And then God actually doing something about it at the return of Jesus. Anyway, I just recommend that's Mideast Beast there. Psalm 83 thoughts. So, okay, let's go to folks' questions on this or statements. Bob, I see your statement on Facebook. It's just a big giant link. Let's just use words, okay? Talk to me if you want to, but don't just post a link. Appreciate that. Okay. There's Jeff. Hey, Jeff. Good morning, brother. Good morning if it is morning to you. All y'all. I know it is to Jeff. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones, holy ones, the Jews. How are they hidden? Okay, right. That's verse 3. Yeah. It could be hidden, right? Could be holy, could be your chosen, could be, what did we say? Treasured, precious. I mean, I'm not really, the word hidden really doesn't affect it either way, to be honest with you. It just means like God refers to them that way as his precious jewels in Malachi. It's certainly about the Jews. But they definitely aren't hidden. Maybe there's something to that. You need more coffee, bondservant? Well, go ahead. You're excused. You probably already got it. That was a while ago. Oh, in verse 3, they are hidden in Jordan. They have fled to the mountains. That's a very interesting point. Okay. That's an interesting point. Because to that, let's go with this. Okay. If that's the case, then this is the last 3.5 years only, right? If they've already fled, this means the abomination of desolation. That means Israel's already been invaded. So they've already acted on their genocide, and all united for sure. Thank you for that, Jeff. If just right for there, if we're going to say Psalm 83 is a prophecy of a particular event, we've got to be aligned with the other passages that talk about this same event because it's not a separate thing. There's no evidence of that. For sure, regardless of what you think, there's no evidence that Psalm 83 talks about a different war. Tiki, what's up, my man? The whole Psalm 83 war thing got going by Bill Salas. I watched an interview with him last week on the Prophecy Roundtable, and his biblical knowledge and superficial thinks Magog is Russia. Well, that might be true. I don't know. I think it's older than that. Bill Salas is not. It wasn't that long ago that he was writing a lot. I guess he still is. I don't know. I don't know how far back the teaching goes, to be honest with you. But I know it's used a lot by students, prophecy peoples, because the hatred of the Jewish people is just stated, and that the surrounding nations hate them. We can see that with our eyeballs. So we take that as an easily an easy confirmation of the scriptures, is that, look, this is something that's happening because look at the hatred and look at the nations that we're talking about. And they want to wipe Israel away. We hear that talk from the Palestinians, and we hear that from the Iranians. Like, this has got to be prophecy fulfillment. Well, yes and no, right? Many think Russia is Magog. Well, right, or Rosh. That's where they get the term. Oh, this is Russia. It's the Rush. It means rush or Rus or something, which obviously it does not. They're different languages, but yeah, Rosh means head or first or chief, like Rosh Hashanah. All right, great. Yay. Let's interact. Let's do it. Feel free. Feel it free. If Psalm 83 is a prophecy, it must tie into Gog and Magog at the end of the tribulation, I would think. Now, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, that's exactly what it seems to be. If it's a prophecy of any particular thing other than motivation, so all that you can really see out of that chapter is motivations. That they want to do it. Okay, they've signed something. Okay, maybe that's a thing. Okay, but like you said, where is that? There's talk of that for sure. It's called the covenant with death and Sheol. And like I think I've mentioned it probably every time I come on the air nowadays, to have that covenant with death and the grave, or death and Sheol, you have to have two parties, not 1,000 parties. Two parties to the agreement. One is Israel and the other is their neighbors. Their neighbors act as one party. All of them. If the scriptures are true, like we just saw, whether it be Psalm 83 or Ezekiel 38 or Revelation 13 or Daniel, there are certain nations that have to come together as one with complete agreement, to the point where there is a line in Psalm 83 that definitely is echoed in Revelation 17, where it talks about the 10 kings having one mind or being of one accord. Okay. All right. If that's what we're referring to, then this is how the beast, what we call, right, the final empire, the Antichrist empire, gets together, when these 10 kingdoms come together as one kingdom and agree as if they had the same brain. Can we agree that is not the case today with the surrounding nations of Israel? Can you say Saudi Arabia is as the same brain and thinking as Iran and Turkey and Egypt? No, you can't. There is no way. They're all different. And Jordan, they're all different. They all have their own opinions. They all have their own goals. They're all self-concerned. There is no giant caliphate at this point. They haven't turned their power over to anyone. Assad wants to be the king. Hussein in Jordan wants to be the king there. And Lebanon is all flayed up and broken. And Iraq is all flayed up and broken. and Turkey's trying to be dictators, and Iran's trying to do their own revolution, and like it's totally disparate. It's not united. They might hate the Jews at certain levels. Each one is different, and some have policies and some don't, and some will act and some won't. That's not the same mind. That's not agreed. Anyway, so we need two parties to have this deal, treaty, covenant, however you want to slice it, okay? Israel on one side and all her neighbors on the other. It gets to the point where, scripturally, all those other nations around Israel give their power to one representative. That's what we call the little horn. And it's only at that point where we can have a deal. Where we can have the setup is to lie that they want to have peace with Israel, when the truth is they've conspired together and want to attack. That's what the last half of the 7 years is, right? When you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, you know her desolation is near, therefore flee to the mountains. Okay? That's what we're talking about. So if Psalm 83 is in there at all as an event, it has to be when that agreement with themselves to attack Israel happens, which is the very end of the process. Verse 5 should clarify it means the covenant of death, which is, I think, what I was trying to say. They have conspired together with one mind. They made a covenant against you. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why God says, I'm going to break your covenant with death, because it's not with me. They want to kill you. This could have been in 48 or 67. No. It can't be ever. Unless it's the last one that Ezekiel and Revelation and Daniel all talk about, it can't mean anything. I did want to show you, or show y'all. So I got to stop the Bible share to share something else. Hang on. I want to show you the Google search results here. You can't really see a lot. Anyway, Psalm 83, the coming battle for Israel. Is this Israel Psalm 83 war? Psalm 83, timing and relationship to Gog and Magog. Psalm 83 by Spurgeon. Why I believe we are not watching the fulfillment of Psalm 83. Is Psalm 83 predicting events in Israel and Gaza? Potential for Psalm 83 war. End times prophecy, Gaza war. Psalm 83 about the war in Gaza. Psalm 83, pre-tribulation, Arab-Israeli war number 1. Psalm 83. A surprise in Psalm 83, the Magog invasion. Okay, you get the idea. Looming on the horizon. Right, etc., etc., etc. That's the result you're going to get if you're curious. You're not going to get much about what we're talking about. So that's the state of where we're at. And there was one very popular ministry that I do not recommend ever that you listen to, saying that it happened in 1948 and that was the fulfillment of Psalm 83. Whatever. I would just throw that away. Oh, hey, Anchor, Aranatha, friend. Great book. I assume you mean Mideast Beast, but I do want to recommend Flee to the Mountains, which takes over after that book leaves off, which gives you the biblical proof about our responsibility as Christians to the state of Israel and the Jewish people during the last 7 years, what happens in the first half and the second half, and why we need to know. Not a long book. It's barely even there. But go get it on Amazon, fleetothemountains.com. Digital copy you can get immediately. PDF download. There's also a course worked up there. Anyway, I hope you think that's a great book as well. Bondservant says, it seems just to be a lament on how the enemies think and propose what to do. Same things they say today. Basically. Yeah. And the whole being hidden, like Jeff said, hidden in the shadow of his wings. That's a phrase. And of course, that's Revelation 12, right? The wings of the great eagle, fly them to their place, etc., etc. There it is. Yep. You could definitely, it's interesting to read that into it for sure. And if you can, if Jeff's right, if you make that connection, then it can only mean the last 3.5 years as a description of an event. Hidden, maybe it means God who protects and seems hidden, thinking Ezekiel was in despair, and God revealed he had 7,000 who were not bowed to Baal and was faithful. Perhaps. But that would assume the whole nation is faithful, which obviously they're not. Maybe. Tiki, if it is connected to Gog Magog, Iran would have already been swallowed up by the bighorn Turkey, Assyria. Again, like, it doesn't, Assyria is not all of Turkey. So, like, I mean, if we're going to be specific about it, it would have, the Persian people are still the Persian people. And it just doesn't mention them for whatever reason. So, do you think the Antichrist will unite some of these lands via force like Hitler? That's kind of how I've seen it. 3 horns getting plucked up and such. Well, we have very detailed Anchor Down. We have very detailed. I hope you've gone through the book of Daniel with End Time Church, because we've done this painstakingly through the scriptures alone. There are many wars described in Daniel 7, 8, and 11, especially 8 and 11, that tell us exactly how it's brought together. It says, to the end of the war, desolations are determined. There's war till the end. So, like, yes, the Antichrist will be, at the end of the process, he'll be the Antichrist, right? But this whole consolidation of lands coming together is all by war. Against each other, not Israel. Daniel 8 and 11 tell you that over and over and over. It shows you again and again and again the king of the north or the king of the south, and the Iranian invasion and the repelling of that invasion or defeat of the Iranians by the Turks. Again, just putting modern nations on the scripture names, but all that is warfare. It has to be that way. Anchor Down. There is no other way. There's a good YouTuber, you great little person. Sorry, I don't even know you at all. Flee to the mountains, my next page. Bless the Lord. Thank you so much. Carrie is here. Bless God. We're good to go. Hey, Carrie. Thank you. NVK Delta says, I think Psalm 83 is the inner countries of Israel. They have a war, then further out countries like Turkey, Iran, Sudan join in for the Ezekiel war. I think Psalm 83 is a war despite God not specifically saying it. I mean, okay. what inner countries of Israel, they have a war. It says countries outside of Israel right off the bat. It doesn't just say Philistia goes to war with Israel or something. It's all those nations it says they conspire together at once. So again, if it does describe an action, which it doesn't say, the only action in it is there's an agreement with the enemies of Israel to destroy her. We need more information. We can't just go on that and say, I think, even though God doesn't say it. That's not a good, just as a student, as a student myself, I would never accept a teacher telling me, even though it's not in there, I'm going to assume it. Bad move. The fail safe that God puts in his prophetic texts is that you can cross-check it with other scriptures, with other prophets. He's never going to leave you alone hanging out there saying, oh, maybe this is true. I'm not going to say it, but it's really a thing. He doesn't work like that. Hello, Scott. Oh, big old post here that can't even get it all in here. Okay, it's quoted. I see indoctrinated, fake Christian, and fake Jewish Zionists. Okay, if you got something to say of your own, Scott, please say it. But I'm about to ban you. Okay, we don't allow this haters here calling me a fake because I'm a Zionist, because I think Israel should exist, and the Jews are not fake who live there. So, one more chance. Okay, so that's my thoughts on Psalm 83. I think it's a big mistake to look for it as a thing right now, or imminently, or even in the context of something before the invasion of the Antichrist, which would go along with Daniel, go along with Ezekiel, go along with the Revelation. That's now we're lined up. Now it makes sense. And we know the desire is there. The desire has been all along from Ishmael, right? Edom and Esau, and on down through history, the great hatred to destroy what God has chosen. There's no doubt that's been there, but it's been thousands of years now and it hasn't happened. This attack hasn't happened. Why? Because God only gives them one chance. And that's at the very end. And that's for obviously Israel's chastisement. And ultimately he saves them from destruction at the end, right? After 3.5 years of war, of losing, of a Holocaust, of bad stuff. That's when, if Psalm 83 has any context in that way, that's it. Cults have been out in full force lately. Yes, they have. I'm not just assuming it based off my emotion. Well, I didn't say that. But I think it's a war because Ezekiel tells us in 38 that there will be unwalled villages. So what does that have to do with the other thing? Ezekiel 38 tells you about the unwalled villages because of the covenant with death and the grave. The covenant with death and Sheol in Isaiah 28 and Daniel 9 shows us that it's a covenant of peace, that the enemies of Israel get together and say, we will not attack you. So there's 3.5 years of no reason to have walls. The war comes later. They have unwalled villages because they've agreed with all the other nations that they're not going to attack. The nations agree we're not going to come after Israel. In fact, we're going to settle this issue of Jerusalem and the Temple Mount, period. You can build your temple on the Temple Mount, and we won't attack you. When we say we mean all of us. Every single Muslim country around you, everyone has agreed not to. Here's the document that says so. Here's the leaders that are coming together to say so. Here's the representative that we've appointed called the Little Horn that says so. We guarantee it. And that's the only way you guarantee it. So you can't say because of that statement in Ezekiel that somehow proves Psalm 83 is a war. That doesn't make sense, friend. I don't see the connection. Yeah, hopefully I just answered that for you, brother. Yep. Okay, any other questions? Comments, suggestions? Let me do a double check of the Anti-Church app. I know folks watch there, usually afterwards, not live, but just in case. Oh, wait. There's a reaction, but not a question. All right, cool. All right, guys. If this has blessed you, even if you don't agree, if this has taught you anything, if you appreciate the time spent going through the scripture instead of just blabbering opinions, please bless this ministry in return. wingsoftheeagle.com/donate. That's my full-time ministry. That's what we do here. And if you like this podcast, it costs money. So please contribute. Would appreciate that very much. And get the book, Flee to the Mountains. Pray about the next step in that. And I hope you've been looking at the bottom of your screen there. We do have a free app that's unrelated to all the big social media companies. It's just the church, endtime.app. Just type that into your browser, endtime.app. Whether you're on your phone, your laptop, or your computer, your tablet, whatever, that'll take you direct to the app store for your device so you can get and use the app for free. It's never a cost to have that. And please, if you care about Israel, if you really care about them being targeted for extinction and being attacked by Hamas and all these other dudes, give to Jacob's Refuge. Go to jacobsrefuge.com. It is a fund specifically to help the Jewish people in Israel and around the world. It's a serious organization. I'm on the board. It's going to do what it says, and your money will go exactly where we say it will. So support Israel there. Get the End Time app. And by the way, like I say, what's next in prophecy? Don't depend on the latest opinion, people. Go to fleetothemountains.com. Get the book. There's a course you can take. You don't have to actually have a book. You can go through it at your pace. It gets more in depth even than what's written in the book. And then go from there. All right, guys, until next time, Christopher Manti here for the Unsealed Podcast, official podcast of Wings of the Eagle. Love you so very much. Stay in prayer. And like I say, hopefully we're back on next week and potentially more about this UAP stuff. And I know it doesn't make sense probably to a lot of you. It hardly makes sense to me when I say it, but it's all related. The UFO, UAP thing, the government cover-up of it, the situation with Israel, situation with politics, all this is like a giant swirling mass, and it's all related, and God is doing something tremendous with all this. I just know it. All right, guys, till next time, we'll see you. Please share this. Again, support the ministry any way you can, and we'll see you next time. This has been Unsealed. Be blessed in Jesus' name.
To hear previous episodes, to obtain resources, and to support this ministry, visit unsealedpodcast.com.
Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold. But he who stands firm to the end will be saved.